New Yorkers, they're rude, they're crude, they don't give you any time, no one's friendly when you walk down the street. I don't get that.
No,
I don't
it's
get
not
that at
true.
all. I actually love the
That's a huge
people.
misconception,
It's a huge
yeah.
misconception. When we walk down the street, I love how friendly people are to us.
You know Drew and Jonathan Scott as the charismatic billion-dollar titans of HGTV. But hiding in their massive shadow is a third and older brother. Behind the scenes, J.D. Scott spent over a year quietly dying inside a locked Las Vegas home. Forced to write his final estate instructions, he prepared for the end. What happened to the siblings of Hollywood's powerful duo? Let's find out. The cryptic 14-month exile. When anyone thinks of the Property Brothers, they see Drew and Jonathan everywhere on television, building a multi-million-dollar empire with perfect smiles and flawless home renovations. They are the real definition of an ultimate power duo. But what people don't know is that there's actually a third Scott brother. For 14 agonizing months, this invisible sibling completely went under the radar without explanation. While HGTV fans enjoyed the perfect world of home improvement, a tight corporate curtain kept a horrifying reality out of sight. It all started in 2018, when J.D. Scott suddenly stopped appearing on major holiday specials and primetime network shows. The sudden disappearance fueled rumors online, with fans wondering if he had even already passed. However, the truth was far more terrifying than any internet gossip. Away from the public, J.D. was fighting for his life. It seemed his body turned against him. A perfectly healthy entertainer was facing a medical condition that attacked not only his heart, but also his brain. And soon, he wasn't able to stay at a normal room temperature. If a room got warmer than 70 degrees, his skin felt like it was on fire and his body would collapse. This medical ailment was one that left top specialists entirely confused. He was bedridden, stringed multi-million-dollar scanning machines, yet nothing could help diagnose him. Found nothing. It was a lonely fight, and worst of all, his brother. The iconic twins and renovation gurus were having the time of their life. He was the older brother, watching his younger twins conquer the world while he stayed trapped in a climate-controlled room. You might expect that a team of elite hospital scientists finally solved this medical mystery after so much research. But the answer came from a shocking stroke of Hollywood production luck that changed everything. The dark side of Maple Ridge. Under the crushing weight of his body giving up on him, J.D. decided the only way to soften the blow on the love of his life was to write her a final goodbye email. How did someone as healthy as J.D. Scott find himself in this medical crisis? Well, that's exactly what we are going to find out. Long before the fame or television appearance, James Daniel Scott was just a regular farm boy from Vancouver. He was raised alongside his two younger identical twin brothers, Drew and Jonathan. Being the firstborn meant J.D. was the natural pioneer of the family, yet it also meant he had to face life's harshest lessons completely alone. The boys grew up under the heavy influence of their father, Jim Scott, who was a rugged Scottish immigrant that spent years working in the high-stakes underbelly of Hollywood as a stuntman and an assistant director. He taught his sons the lessons that came with survival, and J.D. took those lessons to heart. At 8 years old, he entered an intense karate program. He pushed his body to the absolute limit, earning a black belt and becoming an instructor before his younger brothers could even tie their own martial arts belts. As the oldest sibling, he went to public school and had to endure being bullied. During these difficult years, a hidden trap was already setting itself inside his body. J.D. struggled with extreme environmental allergies. These allergies were ruled out by doctors at the time as normal childhood symptoms. This negligence would become a problem that would affect him as he got older. Even with these physical struggles, he was the creative mind of the family. He developed an obsessive passion for sketch comedy and local theater. He wrote scripts, directed videos, and laid down the structural creative blueprint that his brothers would later use to build a billion-dollar global empire. As the twins grew up, a strange psychological change popped up as J.D. started to feel more lonely than ever. With his twin brothers, who were now getting all the spotlight, he was only pushed aside. As the Scott brothers set their sights on the Hollywood Hill, a common family nickname began to take hold, carrying a quiet, emotional toll that would follow J.D. into Las Vegas. The move to Las Vegas was a massive roll of the dice. Jonathan was the first to move to Nevada first, and along the line, he eventually took JD with him. In those early days, Vegas wasn't about red carpets or a luxury lifestyle. JD got a job working at a casino, enduring exhausting late-night shifts as a blackjack dealer. He spent hours watching tourists win and lose fortunes while he cleared card tables to pay his rent. Eventually, his natural performance skills allowed him to escape the casino floor, and he found himself at a highly successful stage run as a celebrity impersonator, changing his appearance to mimic pop icons David Bowie and Adam Lambert. He not only had the vocals, he had the look and the edge to command a Vegas crowd to go with it. Soon, this incredible talent became a talking point as his younger twin brothers started rising to fame. Drew Scott frequently made a public joke during interviews, claiming the family kept JD hidden under the stairs like Harry Potter so he would not outshine the twins. The brothers even compared him to Brad Pitt, calling JD the true movie star of the family. On the surface, it sounded like a compliment, but as time went on, the label became a double-edged sword. The tag kept him trapped in a perpetual cycle of unfulfilled potential, celebrated for what he could be rather than what he was allowed to do. While it seemed everything was going smoothly with his career and that of his brothers, a heavy battle was already raging. JD was struggling with severe clinical depression even before his body began to fail. His mental health was under constant siege. The parties and glamour of the city weren't enough to cure the deep emotional exhaustion he carried. He became okay with being in the background of his brother's success and chose to help build the creative foundation of the company, while Drew and Jonathan became the public faces of the enterprise. The price of this anonymity was incredibly heavy, as he was often sidelined compared to how his brothers were treated. The public routinely looked straight past him, categorizing him simply as the other one. This creeping psychological isolation settled deep into his daily life. Staying in the shadows was a price he had to pay to help elevate the family business. He had no idea that as the Property Brothers brand prepared to explode across global television networks, a silent, mysterious force was waiting to completely dismantle his physical health from the inside out. The birth of a billion-dollar empire. In 2002, the three brothers laid the groundwork for their future empire by launching Scott Brothers Entertainment. JD was the co-founder who helped design the corporate infrastructure from the ground up. As the business grew, he took on the massive responsibility of creative director. While Drew and Jonathan were busy filming on location and interacting with fans, JD stayed in the production office running the digital strategy, rewriting scripts, and making sure the family branding remained completely perfect. And this was even long before HGTV became a household name. Network executives recognized his unique talent and would occasionally pull him out of the back office for strategic on-camera roles. Fans loved his hosting stints on shows like Brother vs. Brother, where he brought an edgy, energetic vibe that went nicely with the clean-cut style of his twin brothers. JD tried to use this momentum to build an independent path for himself, and he went in for the kill. He hosted solo television projects about American amusement parks and ran local radio shows. He also traveled the globe as an ambassador for World Vision, all in search of a personal purpose away from the constant shadows of his brother's successes. During this incredibly busy era, JD routinely worked grueling 16-hour production days. To keep his energy up and stay in peak shape, he made major lifestyle changes. He adopted a diet heavy in seafood and high-protein foods because it seemed like the healthiest choice possible. But he had no idea he was unknowingly setting off a ticking time bomb inside his own system. At the same time, the corporate pressure around the family business was intensifying. The global brand was strictly built around the marketability of identical twins. Contracts and network agreements kept the spotlight firmly locked on Drew and Jonathan, keeping JD tethered to the corporate background. Through it all, JD maintained a completely stoic front. He always spoke with deep humility in public and never showed an ounce of bitterness about being left out of the main spotlight. He wore a mask of absolute support, hiding the fact that his internal reality was starting to fracture under the massive workload. By 2018, JD had spent years mastering the art of working in the background while keeping his personal struggles completely away from the public. He thought he could keep pushing through the exhaustion forever. That illusion shattered during a major family trip to Europe, when his body finally ran out of time and triggered a terrifying medical emergency. The invisible attack and sudden collapse. In May 2018, the entire family flew over to Italy for Drew's wedding. Right in the middle of the wedding vows, JD experienced a sudden, terrifying micro-attack. But because JD was used to demanding production schedules, his immediate reaction was to shrug it off. He convinced himself that the strange episode was nothing more than chronic jet lag, extreme corporate burnout, or even probably the emotional stress of such a massive family milestone. He ignored the internal warning and forced himself to keep smiling for the wedding cameras. But everything turned south when he got back home. Without warning, JD suffered a cardiac arrest. Apart from that, there was a lot of pressure on his skull, coupled with a cold numbness that went all the way down his left arm. Alongside the chest pains were other disturbing neurological symptoms. He explained he felt a crawling sensation moving directly beneath his skull. Seeing how terrifying his symptoms were getting, he was convinced his death was near and finally rushed to the nearest emergency room. Shockingly, when the results came out, it didn't quite have the answers to what he had just gone through. From the results, his heart was completely normal, and there was no medical explanation for his near-death experience. No one could explain what was going on in his body. Even when he looked medically okay, JD could feel his life force draining away day by day. Within a matter of weeks, the man who used to manage massive global television crews would find himself completely helpless, turning into a hostage to the everyday temperature of his own home. This was the beginning of what became a strict thermal prison. JD experienced the most bizarre and terrifying symptom of his progressive breakdown, which was a complete and violent intolerance to normal room temperatures. The boundary between safety and agony came down to a single number. The moment any room temperature crossed 69 degrees Fahrenheit, JD's skin felt as though it were being scorched by an open flame. This was not a mild hot flash or a bit of sweating. This environmental trigger caused immediate, total neurological shutdowns. His brain would simply turn off to protect itself, dropping him into prolonged blackouts and leaving him completely bedridden for days at a time. Because of this, his once vibrant reality shrank down to a single, heavily air-conditioned, pitch-black room. The former globetrotter could no longer face the intense Las Vegas sun or even step outside his own front door. To the outside world, this invisible, temperature-dependent illness looked completely unbelievable. Network executives and distant colleagues began to suspect that the third brother was having a severe psychological breakdown. They treated it as a phantom sickness, assuming the pressure of the family empire had finally broken his mind. The reality inside that dark house was far more devastating, as he later shared a heartbreaking confession about those dark days. During his countless collapses on the floor, he would lie completely motionless for hours. He could only stare at the ceiling, watching the fan spin, while quietly waiting for his internal organs to stop functioning for good. The worst part of fighting this disease was that it left absolutely no physical marks. There were no tumors on his high-tech scans, no blood clots, and no definitive medical names to explain what he was going through. This lack of proof isolated him from the world, and even the simple warmth of a loved one's hand could trigger a painful burning sensation. He remained trapped inside, watching his body waste away, while his brothers continued to build their television empire. JD finally realized that conventional healthcare was completely failing him. With his time rapidly running out, he agreed to surrender his body to a brutal gauntlet of clinical experimentation, a path that would soon bring a wave of terrifying false alarms. The medical strains. For over a year, JD went through an endless parade of medical professionals across the country. He visited top rheumatologists, radiologists, and neurosurgeons, hoping a new pair of eyes could finally spot the flaw in his system. At one point, the mystery turned into a dark nightmare when specialists began testing him for multiple unruptured brain aneurysms. He spent months living with the terrifying thought that a weak blood vessel in his head could pop at any second and end his life. To find a definitive answer, he consulted 3 separate world-class neurological experts. Each specialist ran complex diagnostic batteries, yet all three walked away completely empty-handed. The sheer physical strain of this constant testing took a massive toll on his already weakened body. On one particularly brutal day at a clinic, staff drained 25 consecutive vials of blood from his arm, leaving him dizzy and completely exhausted. He also endured a relentless marathon of imaging and radiation as the doctors ordered a half-dozen tests to track his brainwaves. Every single test came back with the same result, showing absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. This created a unique kind of emotional trauma because without anything on the scans, there was no treatment option, and his body continued to break down without a name. While his health deteriorated, his financial security vanished. His hard-earned life savings rapidly disappeared into a black hole of private medical bills, with each expensive consultation bringing him no closer to a cure. He was losing his money, his physical strength, and his hope all at the same time, watching his bank account empty out for zero answers. Drawing close to his final breaking point, he finally accepted that he might not be able to get any explanation and decided his final goodbyes would be to the woman he loved. This heartbreaking moment happened during a terrifying midnight crisis that marked the absolute worst, most violent physical episode of his 14-month decline. Certain that he wouldn't make it, he began a complete digital liquidation of his financial and legal life. He compiled a master log, meticulously typing out every single personal password, private corporate file location, and banking route, so his survivors would not be left in confusion. The heaviest emotional burden came when he drafted a final estate email to his fiancée, Annalee Bell. He wrote out precise instructions on how to handle his bank accounts, who to contact, and how to manage the aftermath of his passing. He set the message to send on a delay, scheduling his own passing. Even though he survived the night, it still was a haunting reminder that he'd face another exhausting day of unexplained agony. While managing to survive every night, he still kept his suffering a secret, even though it was gradually becoming impossible. Knowing his time was running out, JD realized he had let the world know of his private struggles. The cry for help. In July 2019, he and his fiancée, Annalee Bell, sat down in front of a camera and recorded a completely unexpected, raw, and unedited 27-minute video directly to Instagram, completely bypassing the usual television networks and PR teams. In the video, JD looked pale and visibly sick. It was a far cry from the energetic producer fans remembered. The video sent a massive shockwave through the global entertainment community. Millions of HGTV fans who were accustomed to the cheerful, bright world of home renovations were suddenly forced to confront a heartbreaking scene. The oldest Scott brother was on screen, admitting that he was actively fighting a losing battle against an unknown illness that was destroying his life. People who had watched him on various television specials could hardly believe this was the same man they knew. Opening up to the public brought a whole new set of challenges. While many fans offered deep sympathy, a wave of internet trolls and skeptics began attacking his story. These critics accused him of faking or exaggerating a mystery illness to gain social media clicks, boost his following, or secure a new reality television contract. JD refused to let the cynics control the narrative, and he aggressively pushed back against the online rumors, reinforcing the gravity of his condition. To prove his point, he made a deeply vulnerable public admission, explaining that his desperate quest to find a medical diagnosis had completely drained his personal financial resources. This long video was never a play for Hollywood sympathy or industry attention. It was a calculated, open-source gamble born out of sheer desperation. JD and Annalee shared his highly specific symptoms, from the fiery skin irritation to the instant temperature blackouts, in the hope that a doctor or medical specialist somewhere on Earth might recognize the patterns and reach out with a solution. Even though the strategy did work, it was not exactly in the way they originally anticipated. An unprecedented deluge of medical theories, supportive messages, and global prayers completely flooded the Scott family's social networks. People from all walks of life tried to piece together the puzzle of his failing health. This massive public response permanently shattered the illusion of the worry-free, perfect HGTV lifestyle, demonstrating that wealth and television fame cannot protect a family from a biological crisis. Even with thousands of people offering advice online, the true key to his physical survival did not arrive through a social media comment. JD's path to a cure came down to a completely random twist of Hollywood casting luck that occurred behind the scenes of a production set, introducing him to a medical professional. This incredible breakthrough was made possible by Annalee Bell herself. Before being known as JD's fiancée, she was an immensely talented celebrity makeup artist, model, and alternative fashion icon who originally grew up in Amarillo, Texas. She is widely known for her bright lifestyle, colorful hair, and unique creative vision. The couple first crossed paths back in March 2014 at a casual bar located in the Las Vegas Arts District, a trendy neighborhood far away from the glitz of television cameras. A deep romance blossomed from that meeting, and their lives became connected both personally and professionally. Annalee took on a crucial role working as a primary makeup artist on various Property Brothers production sets, ensuring the family and guests looked perfect before the cameras rolled. Working on those television sets eventually led to the miracle they were praying for. While preparing for a standard episode of the show, Annalee was reviewing the files of the participants. She discovered that an upcoming featured homeowner was actually a highly advanced functional medicine specialist. Realizing this was the exact type of help JD needed, she immediately reached out. This doctor looked at medicine through a completely different lens, bypassing traditional protocols that treat separate symptoms with individual pills. Instead, the specialist analyzed JD's body as an interconnected, compromised system, where a hidden issue in one area was causing a total collapse in another. With a brilliant functional medicine strategist on their side and a partner who refused to give up, JD finally had a real plan of attack. In September 2019, he entered a private laboratory to undergo a highly specific round of testing. The data from those lab reports would finally unmask an unexpected threat hiding in his system, leaving everyone completely stunned by what had been poisoning his body all along. The toxic triple threat unveiled. In September 2019, JD Scott finally returned to social media to drop the official, terrifying medical truths behind his 14-month exile. The clinical reality shocked his family and his followers. He was not dying from a standard terminal illness that doctors usually screen for. Instead, his body was experiencing a cumulative, toxic overload caused by 3 separate vectors that had quietly combined into a perfect storm. For over a year, he had been fighting a ghost, and the family finally understood why the multi-million-dollar hospital scanners had found nothing. The medical elites were simply looking for the wrong things. The first major finding was a latent gut infection. This massive, hidden gastrointestinal issue had completely destroyed his gut lining over a long period. Because the gut controls so much of the human immune system, this infection turned his body's natural defenses into absolute dust, leaving him vulnerable to everything around him. His body was also overridden with fluoroquinolone toxicity, a severe medical issue often called floxing. JD discovered that he was suffering from extreme cellular damage caused by a powerful class of common antibiotics he had taken in the past. When these cellular energy centers are damaged, the body can experience serious attacks on its nerves, tendons, and basic brain functions, which were some of the symptoms he had experienced throughout those tough months. Another shocking diagnosis he got was the case of acute mercury poisoning. The lab tests revealed that JD's tissues and bloodstream were heavily saturated with toxic levels of industrial mercury, which caused his heart attacks and terrifying blackouts. The contamination was so incredibly high that the local health department had to get involved and launch an official investigation to find the source of his exposure. After a long and daunting journey, he has finally gotten the breakthrough he needed. Yet, it was only the beginning of a long road. JD now had to start a demanding medical cleanup to give his nervous system a chance to recuperate. He began an intense healing process which made him completely cut out all seafood to stop any new mercury from entering his bloodstream. Alongside this mental cleanup, he started a radical elimination diet, removing all gluten, dairy, soy, and refined sugars from his meals. This strict routine was designed to rebuild his ruined digestive tract from scratch and stop the gut infection from constantly triggering his immune system. As his body began to heal through the autumn of 2019, He finally gained enough physical strength to achieve a milestone that once seemed totally impossible. On October 31st, 2019, exactly 1 year after their engagement, JD and Annalie walked down the aisle. Instead of preparing for an end, the couple threw a stunning 180-guest wedding gala inside a stylized 1940s-themed movie theater venue in Las Vegas. The entire event was a massive celebration of survival, featuring moments that quickly went viral online. Annalie made a spectacular grand entrance into the venue, riding on top of a majestic black horse, while guests watched in absolute awe. The reception turned into a fun costume party, and the world-famous twins did not hesitate to join the chaos. Groomsmen Drew and Jonathan completely abandoned their usual tailored suits for bizarre attire, dressing up as iconic video game characters. Jonathan appeared as Link from The Legend of Zelda, while Drew ran around as Donkey Kong. Right after the wedding celebrations, in November 2019, JD shared an emotional medical update that confirmed his hard work was paying off. After one intensive round of the detox protocol, his lab results showed that his mercury levels had plummeted by a staggering 50%. The physical relief was immediate, and a profound change occurred. JD told his global audience that for the first time in over a year, his brain was clear and his soul had returned. He felt truly alive again, free from the constant threat of temperature blackouts. JD Scott had successfully taken control of his life back and was finally standing on his own feet, married to the love of his life. To make his life worth the while, his famous twin brothers were quietly stepping behind the scenes to prepare a massive, life-altering surprise that would change his world forever. The secret fight on the set of Forever Home. This surprise unfolded on television during the highly emotional finale of Property Brothers' Forever Home. Drew and Jonathan decided to give their older brother the ultimate gift by executing a massive custom renovation of his Las Vegas house. The public saw a heartwarming home makeover, yet the reality on set was vastly different. JD was actually dealing with intense physical pain and exhaustion during the exact days of filming, a secret completely hidden from the millions of viewers watching at home. The production team had to rely on serious editing magic to make the episode happen. Producers used specific camera angles, strategic studio lighting, and clever edits to hide JD's physical frailty. Off-camera, the situation was even more intense. JD had to wear his ice-pumped cooling vest right up until the very second the director called for action. He would quickly slip the vest off, film his brief scenes, and then put the cooling gear straight back on to prevent another blackout. The emotional project became a true family healing effort when their father, Jim Scott, joined the renovation process. Together, they transformed the house into a personal wellness sanctuary, using clean materials and advanced climate control systems to protect JD's sensitive nervous system. JD showed incredible bravery by timing the release of his raw 27-minute Instagram video to drop the exact moment the episode went live on air. Today, JD's life looks completely different, showing that recovery is a continuous daily commitment rather than a sudden cure. He has stepped into a vital role as a wellness advocate, using his platform to spread awareness about functional medicine and gut health. Instead of chasing the bright lights of reality television, he focuses on independent artistic projects, dedicating his time to writing, photography, and personal digital content. This slower, intentional lifestyle stands in sharp contrast to the non-stop corporate hustle of his twin brothers. JD has found true contentment in living small. By choosing this path, he successfully reclaimed his identity and completely redefined the old label of being the other brother. Despite what the media might claim, his bond with Drew and Jonathan remains grounded and close, completely free of any toxic rivalry. Scott did not need a hit television show to prove his value to the world. His fight for survival makes his story a massive success. What do you think of his incredible, unspoken journey? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.